Welcome to the channel and thank you for joining us today. If you're a fan of rare coins, surprising facts, and the incredible stories behind everyday objects that could be worth a fortune, then you're in the right place, because today we're diving into a fascinating and nearly unbelievable tale from the world of numismatics. The story of how a seemingly ordinary 1997 1-cent coin, yes, a penny, can actually be worth up to $10 million due to a series of rare errors, production anomalies, and unusual circumstances that have turned it into one of the most coveted coins among collectors and experts alike. And this isn't just a case of age or precious metal value like you might expect with gold or silver pieces, but rather a confluence of misprints, rare dies, transitional designs, and minting oversights that together have created something of a perfect storm for coin valuation, elevating a common denomination that is typically overlooked in pocket change to legendary status. So, let's take a deep breath and dive into the intricate layers of why this coin, this 1997 penny, might be sitting innocuously in someone's change jar or stuck between couch cushions without them realizing that they could be holding an item worth more than a luxury mansion. Because to truly understand how something so ordinary could be so extraordinary, we need to understand the context of minting practices, the types of errors that occurred, and why those errors are so extraordinarily rare. Starting with the production environment at the U.S. Mint during the 1990s, which was in a period of technological transition, with equipment being updated and dies being changed, and in such an environment, there is always the potential for overlooked mismatches between die types and planchet compositions, and in the case of this legendary 1997 penny, several possibilities and reports have contributed to its mythical value, including but not limited to the use of a bronze planchet from a previous era, which would make the coin significantly heavier than the standard 2.5 grams for zinc-coated pennies introduced in 1982, and if struck on a 3.11 gram copper planchet by mistake, that alone begins to raise eyebrows among collectors. But it doesn't end there, because several examples have shown double dies, misaligned strikes, and off-center images, particularly in the Lincoln Memorial area on the reverse or with Lincoln's bust on the obverse, and in some rare cases, there is evidence that the reverse die use might have actually belonged to an earlier year or even to a proof design, resulting in sharply defined features on a business strike coin that was never meant to have them. And even more intriguing are the instances where coins from different minting batches seem to have blended characteristics, possibly due to die switching errors or leftover stock being mistakenly fed into the wrong press. And this is where numismatists really begin to pay attention. Because such hybrid coins are not just rare, they're anomalies that shouldn't exist, and that makes them tremendously valuable, especially when authenticated and graded at a high condition level by a trusted authority like PCGS or NGC. And collectors are not only paying for the metal or the year but for the story behind the coin, the mystery of how it slipped through quality control, the statistical unlikelihood of its survival, and the mere fact that its existence challenges what we thought we knew about coin production standards. And the buzz around the 1997 penny was fueled further when reports surfaced of a specimen selling for tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and finally a documented case where an incredibly rare and flawed 1997 Lincoln cent fetched a valuation of $10 million based on its singular characteristics and collector interest. Especially considering the possibility that it was the only one of its kind, making it a true unicorn in the numismatic world. And when you analyze the coin closely, several diagnostic features stand out to those who know what to look for, including doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," a misaligned liberty, and certain anomalies in the Lincoln Memorial columns that appear shifted or partially ghosted, possibly due to die wear or improper hubbing. And there are even discussions among experts about whether this coin could have been an experimental strike that was never meant to be released, potentially involving a proof die or a transitional planchet type, and somehow made its way into circulation, and the chances of that happening are vanishingly smaller, in fact, than most known minting errors. So when you combine that with exceptional preservation, sharp strike quality, and the sheer intrigue surrounding its origins, it's not hard to see why collectors would be willing to pay astronomical amounts. And this phenomenon isn't limited to one error alone, because part of what makes the 1997 penny. Such a hot topic is the sheer variety of possible minting mistakes that can appear on coins from that year, with some showing mispunched mint marks, rotated dies, die cracks running across Lincoln's face or the fields of the coin, and in rare cases, coins struck on foreign planchets like those meant for the 10 centavos piece, which would create a 1997 penny with the wrong weight, diameter, and metal composition, and such exotic mistakes almost always find an enthusiastic buyer base, especially when they're from a familiar date that would normally be considered mundane. And what adds even more fuel to this collector frenzy is that most people assume modern pennies have no value because of their recent mintage, but the truth is that errors like these transcend their production year and enter the realm of historical curiosity and monetary art. And when a coin combines numismatic importance, visual uniqueness, and verified authenticity, its value can skyrocket into the millions, as we've seen with this remarkable 1997 cent. And while not every 1997 penny is worth a fortune, the mere chance that such a coin could be hiding in plain sight has led thousands of amateur treasure hunters to sort through their loose change with new interest, hoping to find a double die obverse, a reverse die mismatch, a copper planchet error, or any of the telltale signs that they're holding something other than a simple cent. And let's not forget the influence of online auction platforms and private numismatic networks, where the visibility and value of these coins have been amplified by bidding wars, collector demand, and media attention. And every time a rare coin breaks a price record, it creates ripples across the hobby, inspiring new collectors and reaffirming the importance of careful observation and historical awareness when it comes to something as deceptively simple as a penny. Because these little copper-colored coins are far more complex than they seem, containing within their small frames a wealth of stories about technology, craftsmanship, oversight, and human error. And when all those things converge on a single piece of metal, like they did with the legendary 1997 1-cent coin, the result is something that transcends its face value and becomes a cultural artifact, a financial anomaly, and a symbol of how even the most overlooked items in our daily lives might be worth more than we ever imagined. And while it may seem improbable that such a coin could reach a valuation of $10 million, history has shown us time and again that rarity, condition, provenance, and narrative are the four pillars of extreme value in the world of collectibles, and when they come together perfectly, as they appear to have done with this specific penny, there are no limits to what someone might be willing to pay, especially if they see themselves not only as a collector, but as the temporary steward of a once-in-a-lifetime piece of American history. So keep your eyes open, keep learning, and remember that treasure doesn't always come in chests or vaults. Sometimes, it jingles quietly at the bottom of your pocket, waiting to be discovered. And just when you think the story of rare pennies couldn't possibly get more astonishing, we turn our attention to another jaw-dropping example from the world of coin collecting, a coin that has stunned both seasoned numismatists and curious enthusiasts alike. The legendary 1975 1-cent coin, a small copper-colored piece that, despite its humble appearance, has been appraised and valued at an astronomical $14 million due to an incredibly rare combination of minting errors, historical circumstances, and a perfect storm of collectability factors that converge to make it one of the most sought-after coins in existence. And before we get into the exact reasons why this specific penny has become so valuable, let's first explore the context of the era, because the mid-1970s were a time of transition and experimentation within the U.S. Mint, and Denver, the no-mintmark in this case, was one of the primary production facilities for circulating coinage, known for its high output and robust production lines. But even in such a high-efficiency environment, mistakes, particularly incredibly rare ones, can and did happen, and this brings us to the 1975 penny, a coin that has gained fame not just for one or two anomalies, but for a series of multiple, overlapping minting mistakes that make it nearly a freak of nature in the numismatic world. And unlike more common errors that might involve minor die cracks or slight doubling, this coin's features suggest a mishmash of rare phenomena all colliding in one instance, starting with its planchet. Because while most 1975 pennies were struck on the standard 95% copper, 5% zinc alloy blanks weighing about 3.11 grams. This specific specimen was found to be struck on an entirely different planchet, specifically one meant for a foreign denomination, possibly intended for a coin produced under contract for another country, resulting in unusual metal content and a different weight, already placing it into a rare category of coins struck on wrong planchets. But that's just the beginning, because further inspection reveals dramatic die misalignment, where the obverse and reverse are off-center yet still show full detail, a phenomenon that requires an unusual level of precision error for both dies to produce readable impressions while still being misaligned, and that alone would give the coin collector value. But what elevates this particular penny into the stratosphere of rarity is the doubling, visible in multiple areas, especially the date, 1975, where the numbers show clear, unmistakable doubling that is not due to machine doubling or simple optical illusion, but genuine hub doubling, a highly sought-after error known as a double die obverse, and to find a double die on the date, combined with a misaligned strike, already places this coin in elite territory. But even more fascinating is the presence of die polishing lines and possible die gouges that suggest the dies used to strike this coin had been reworked or tampered with in a way not typical for standard production runs, potentially meaning that this coin was the result of either a rogue press event, a test strike using leftover dies, or a production anomaly that slipped through unnoticed, and the mystery deepens when you examine the mint-mark itself. The D appears repunched, slightly rotated, and with doubling of its own, hinting that it might have been hand-punched or part of a transitional die set that was never intended for circulation, and the complexity of these combined errors has left experts scratching their heads for years, with some theorizing that this coin might represent a hybrid strike during a die transition, or even a prototype piece accidentally released into the wild, and given the lack of other known specimens and the level of irregularity involved, this makes the coin a unique artifact. Perhaps the only one of its kind, and when uniqueness meets condition, because this coin was discovered in exceptionally high grade, almost uncirculated, with sharply defined features, brilliant color, and minimal wear, it reaches that rare air where museum quality rarity meets collector passion, and that's where the valuation begins to make sense, because while most people think of pennies as pocket change or perhaps nostalgia pieces, collectors and investors know that certain examples transcend their function and become cultural and financial phenomena, and the $14 million valuation comes not from speculation alone, but from real-world interest expressed in private auctions, expert appraisals, and industry buzz that suggests this coin is not just rare, but irreplaceable, and in a market where provenance and backstory mean everything, the 1975 D penny tells a tale of impossible odds, of a coin that simply shouldn't exist, and yet does, challenging everything we thought we knew about how coins are produced, authenticated, and valued, and the buzz around it has reached global levels, with collectors from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East expressing interest not only because of its technical anomalies but because it represents a kind of lottery ticket that only the most eagle-eyed and fortunate collector could hope to find, and it has led to a dramatic uptick in attention to all 1975 D pennies, with people examining them under microscopes, weighing them to the microgram, and inspecting every inch for the telltale signs of planchet or die anomalies. Because while only one known example of this multimillion-dollar coin has surfaced so far, the mere possibility that others might exist, hidden in forgotten rolls or obscure collections, is enough to ignite a wave of excitement in the coin-collecting world. And what truly sets this penny apart is not only the series of mechanical errors and historical oddities that define it, but also the sheer improbability that such a coin could survive minting, escape detection, circulate without being damaged or destroyed, and then resurface in pristine enough condition to be evaluated at all. And when you think about that journey, from accidental creation to anonymous use to sudden fame, it turns a simple piece of metal into a symbol of persistence, discovery, and historical curiosity. And that's part of why collectors are willing to spend millions, not just for the physical object, but for the story it tells, the sense of wonder it inspires, and the once-in-a-lifetime chance to own something that literally no one else on earth possesses, And as the interest around the 1975 D penny continues to grow, so does the legend, with new experts coming forward to weigh in on its technical aspects, possible origins, and implications for understanding the U.S. Mint's procedures during that time. And while debates continue about whether the coin was a mistake, a test strike, or something even more mysterious, the value continues to climb, because in a field where rarity, error, condition, and story converge, there are no hard ceilings, only possibilities. And the more people hear about this $14 million coin, the more they look closer at their own pocket change, check their collections, and dream of being the next person to find one of these incredible numismatic unicorns hiding in plain sight. So the next time you come across an old penny, especially one from 1975 with a D mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly, because history has proven that even the smallest coins can carry the biggest surprises. And the astonishing saga of valuable pennies continues with yet another incredible entry into the elite club of multi-million-dollar coins, this time focusing on the remarkable and ultra-rare 1975 1-cent coin, without a mint mark, that has baffled experts, captivated collectors, and ultimately achieved an appraised value of up to $11 million, not because it's made of gold or platinum, and not because it's ancient or ceremonial, but because of the exquisite combination of minting anomalies, historical irregularities, and numismatic mysteries that converge into a single copper coin that has become one of the most treasured items in all of modern American coin collecting. And to truly appreciate how a coin that originally cost just 1 cent to produce could now be worth a staggering 8-figure sum, we need to go deep into the world of minting practices, coin diagnostics, collector psychology, and above all, the fascinating story behind this specific 1975 penny, and it begins with what was supposed to be a very standard year for the U.S. Mint, with the Philadelphia Mint producing large volumes of Lincoln cents using standard bronze planchets composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But amid this routine production run, a coin, or possibly a very small number of coins, emerged that would change everything due to a confluence of nearly impossible conditions. Because while 1975 was not a transitional year like 1982, when the composition of the penny shifted from bronze to copper-plated zinc, it was still a year of heavy minting, experimentation, and mechanical stress on the equipment used to strike billions of coins, and in that context, errors sometimes occurred. But in the case of this 1975 Philadelphia penny, the error is so extensive, so perfectly preserved, and so mysterious in origin that it has become the stuff of numismatic legend. And what makes this particular coin so extraordinary is not just one feature but many, starting with the planchet, which tests suggest may have actually been struck on an alloy not used for American coinage at all during that year, possibly the result of a foreign planchet being accidentally mixed into domestic blanks. And while this might sound improbable, it's not without precedent, as the U.S. Mint has historically struck coins for foreign governments, and occasionally foreign blanks have found their way into U.S. production lines, leading to exotic and incredibly rare hybrid pieces. And in the case of the 1975 penny, preliminary metallurgical analysis suggests that the coin may have been struck on a copper-nickel planchet or a foreign bronze alloy differing subtly in weight, density, and finish, giving the coin a slightly off coloration, a distinct sound when dropped, and a unique electromagnetic signature when tested under professional equipment. And that's just the beginning, because the strike itself shows unmistakable evidence of being a doubled die, one of the most desirable errors among collectors, with extreme doubling visible on the date, particularly the digits 1 and 5, as well as in the letters of Liberty and the motto, "In God We Trust," with the doubling so dramatic and symmetrical that it can be easily seen without magnification, which is rare for doubled dies, most of which require close inspection to verify. And then we move to the reverse of the coin, where things become even more peculiar, because the Lincoln Memorial design, typically clean, symmetrical, and well-aligned, shows signs of having been struck with a reverse die that was either misaligned, overused, or perhaps even a prototype. As the central columns of the memorial appear warped, the statue of Lincoln is unusually sharp in some versions, and the overall spacing of the legends is inconsistent with normal production standards. And some experts have speculated that this coin might have been part of an early test batch using new die hubs or struck during a brief window of press misalignment. But the most compelling theory, and the one driving its immense valuation, is that this particular coin was either an intentional experimental strike never meant to leave the mint, or a one-off error that escaped due to a breakdown in inspection protocols, and the uniqueness of the coin is compounded by the fact that it is in near-perfect condition, with extremely minimal circulation wear, strong luster, and a strike that suggests it was one of the first off the die before it began to degrade, leading many to believe it was either removed by a mint employee or slipped into circulation entirely by accident before being retrieved by a sharp-eyed collector decades later. And when a coin exhibits such a rare mixture of planchet error, double die features, and reverse design irregularities, while also surviving in exceptional condition, it enters a realm of numismatic value that is practically untouchable. Especially if it is the only known example or one of just a handful, and this is exactly what we see with the 1975 no-mintmark penny, which has been verified and authenticated by major grading services and appraised at upwards of $11 million by experts due to its condition, rarity, and demand, and unlike some coins which gain value over time due to scarcity alone, this coin has captured the imagination of collectors due to its technical anomalies and the mystery surrounding how it was even possible for such a coin to be created, much less survive, and this kind of intrigue is what drives high-end collectors and museums to place multi-million-dollar bids, because owning a coin like this is not just a financial investment, it's an acquisition of history, of mystery, of a narrative that no other object can offer, and once again, the existence of such a coin has sparked massive public interest, with everyday people now examining their change, rummaging through old coin jars, and revisiting childhood collections passed down through generations in the hope that they too might stumble upon a coin with the right year, the right look, and the right set of impossibly rare characteristics that could change their lives forever. And while the odds are slim, the appeal lies in the idea that something so small, so overlooked, could carry with it such monumental value, and this 1975 no-mintmark penny, now worth more than a fleet of luxury cars or even some private islands, stands as a monument to that possibility, a reminder that history sometimes hides in plain sight, and that the most valuable treasures are often the ones disguised as ordinary, until someone looks just a little closer, and in the world of coin collecting, that's all it takes, a closer look, a moment of curiosity, a flicker of recognition, to transform a penny into a priceless artifact, and so the legend of the 1975 penny continues to grow, captivating experts, investors, and dreamers alike, and serving as yet another unforgettable chapter in the thrilling, unpredictable, and endlessly fascinating world of rare coins.